Say something. It's like a podcast, but it's a vodcast, so you can listen and watch. It's like news talk or sports talk, but it's life talk, so we can walk the road together. On today's show, Scott Kedersha, author and marriage minister and all-around great guy, joins us to chat about healthy relationship.
Marriage in our pre-married class, we would get up on stage and we tell people how hard marriage is, and like the phrase we use is marriage is hard, you're all gonna die, you can't handle it. And
that's sort of depressing.
It is. It is, and it is hard. You got to die to yourself, but we like scared people away from marriage, and somewhere along the way I said I think we need to change our tune, but we still tell them marriage is hard, but they need to hear how great it is.
Yeah.
And so if you do this thing right, it's awesome. And I love you.
Thanks for joining the conversation. Here we go.
Right, so here we are on a regular afternoon, and we have our friend Scott with us, who I'm just going to say to you that you're probably one of the nicest people I know.
Right?
It's the truth. I'm not kidding.
Thank
I mean,
you.
even just like, anyway, he's so great. And he has written a terrific book on a topic that he really actually knows a lot about, because he has spent years encouraging people, especially as it relates to relationships.
Scott Kedersha is the director of marriage ministry at Watermark Community Church, where he has served on the marriage team for more than 12 years. Through this ministry, he has helped more than 5,000 couples answer the question, Ready or Not, the title of his new book. He lives in the Dallas area with his wife and 4 sons. Connect with Scott at scottkedersha.com or skedersha on Instagram or Twitter.
I want you just to share a little bit about your book and why you wrote it, you know, what moved you to it, and we'll start there.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. This is a first for me, first time at Providence, first time on Carpool Line. So I've worked at Watermark for 12, 13 years now. Started working there, and everyone would ask, what's a good book? What should I read for this and that? I never found a great pre-married book. There were a lot of good marriage books, a lot of good communication books. And so the ones like people were using were good. There were a lot of tips and tricks, but it wasn't the one that we really felt comfortable giving out to people. And so just said over time, maybe we need to write our own. And so I've been doing ministry with pre-married couples for 12, 13 years. I love them. I care for them. I want them to have good marriages. And so a lot of them will come to our church to get counsel, but a lot of them more can't because we're in Dallas, because there's limited time and resource. And so just thought it'd be kind of fun to try to write. So I'm not didn't grow up a writer, right? All the English classes blew off, did the minimum. My verbal score on the SAT was offensively low. And,
I thought you were going to shout out what it is.
It was
like, how do you remember?
Well, it had
probably
3
doesn't.
digits.
He's probably blocking
I know it had 3 digits. That's all I need to know. And but I love to read, and so just said maybe I'll start writing, and then started to write. The idea maybe we'll write the book, and so took it on. And my wife's been incredibly supportive, and staff has been great, and so it's just a big passion to see it go out there. It's like totally a dream come true. Never thought I'd want to write a book until 5 years ago, and the last 5 years it's been a big dream of mine. So it's fun to see it happen.
When you sat down to write, and it has 12 conversations, which is really nice, and we were just talking about how the fact that conversation is welcoming.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's not a talking at, it's a talking with.
Yeah.
And so it's probably not fair, but give us an overview of the conversations, and then if you could pick one, which would it be?
Oh man, okay, that's like choosing my favorite child. So let's see. So there's 12 of them. So what is marriage? Communication, conflict, role of the husband, role of the wife, spiritual intimacy, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, money. What do you do with your differences? So if one
I
is,
love that.
oh yeah, it's a fun one. So one's a spender, one's a saver. Kristen loves to save everything. I want to throw it away. Personality differences, like how do you deal with those differences? Community, so the role of friendships, the role of friendship and marriage, so like companionship. And then the last one is kids. Like, do we want to have them? What do we do with them? How do you deal with the fact that they're evil and challenging at times? And so that before your son gets in the car. So those are like, there might be 1 or 2 more I missed, but I don't know. Like the most important, honestly, is, and this sounds so cliche, but is the spiritual, just what do you believe? Because it's so foundational.
No matter what, to be tethered with someone that's like-minded on the core basics is really important.
Yes.
I would guess.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's because everything else, you might, like, how do you parent your kids? What do you think of money? How do you look at your job? How do you view communication? Am I trying to win, or are we trying to understand one another? All of that comes back down to like what we really believe about who God is and who we are. And so that's just a foundational chapter. All of them are important, but that one just informs the way that you view each of the others. Mm-hmm. I don't know, what would y'all say out of that list of 12?
And the personality differences too are just, I think that's the one I think about for me and for us in our marriage. We're very different. And frankly, most couples I meet, they are very different as well. And the things that attract you to the person you end up marrying are often the things that end up driving you the craziest.
Crazy.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Why is that?
Yes.
God has a sense of humor.
He does. I don't know. Yeah. And like the things that, like, when you're dating, they're really cute about one another, and then you get married and it drives you nuts. Like, oh, she's so, he's so spontaneous and he's so fun. And then you get married and that thing that was fun and spontaneous then becomes like he's irresponsible and he doesn't do anything. And then like he's grateful that she's so organized and can plan everything. And then you get married and the thing that was really attractive, that now she's just anal retentive and like drives me crazy. And
yes.
Yeah, like very difficult to be married to. So that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay, but that's what I love about this book, and why that's so nice is that you out it. And so you go in with realistic expectations, sort of. I mean, expectations are brutal anyway.
Totally.
But I just think that's so helpful. And it's one of the things I love most about your book is that you're outing things that tend to be issues. Yeah. And it's like, let's talk about this before, so that when you're walking through, you know that it's normal.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that it's doable.
Yeah.
And it's actually a gift. Like that, the difference in personalities is actually really special.
Such a gift. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that, you just said it, you can't perfectly prepare for marriage.
No.
Like
any relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we even said, like, when you're dating each other's PR departments, where, like, you're putting...
Oh, my gosh.
Did you do PR?
My husband says that, too.
Yeah.
He calls it their representative.
Yes. Yeah. And then you get married, like, who is this person? Well, it's because you dated
See, it happens to everybody.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm hearing... I realize this is more for premarital, and when you're thinking, but this to me sounds like it would be just great dinner table or date night conversation even after you are married.
Yeah, that's true. It's primarily written for seriously dating and engaged, but newlyweds, married couples, I've read through it 10 times. There were a lot more than that, and every time I go through, that's a good reminder for me. Nothing in there, like, any married couple would benefit from having those conversations again. Like the stuff in there in communication, that be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. That's not just something that applies to pre-married.
No, it applies to life.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. Every relationship. So yeah, it's not, it's good for those young couples, but any couple who reads it would benefit from it. Yeah.
I remember years ago, you taught a class at church about communication conflict, and I'm sure some of that is in here.
It's the whole chapter. Isn't it a chapter?
And we still say, so what I heard you say is, right? And sometimes he looks at me and he's like, how did you get that?
That's not what I said.
Right? But proof that sometimes things you say don't hit the other person's ear the same way you intended.
Yeah. Which, again, that's every relationship, right? So you've got to learn how to understand, like, it's not about winning. And especially when you're married, you're one flesh, and so there's no winning. Like, you win if you both win, not if one of you wins the argument. Yeah. And it's so different than the rest of life. We think, how can I get my point across and win? If I speak louder, speak more, and when you're speaking, I'm not really listening. I'm just thinking through what I'm going to say. When you, like, in my mind, I'm going, my wife finally stopped speaking. Then instead of listening to her, I'm just going to respond and make sure she knows what I think.
That's so interesting. And so even while you're listening, you're thinking about your response.
Yeah.
We totally do that.
So part of it, how do you do that really well? Couples who do that well communicate well, and then they're married well, and they get along much better instead of the couples who, so inability to communicate and resolve conflict. Any couple who gets divorced or is miserable together, it's because they don't know how to communicate or resolve conflict together as a couple. So your point's so good, Aaron. It's not just for pre-marrieds. Any couple, any relationship would benefit from what is shared in there.
Mm-hmm. So talk about your own marriage with sweet Kristen.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, how much
know,
did
guys.
this book play out in your marriage over the
Yeah.
past year, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, first, she's just been amazing, just to support me writing this book. My name's on the front, but she's sacrificed. She's taken the kids. It's been our dream, not just mine. And she's been an amazing, amazing partner. And so partly, if who should you marry? It's somebody who will support your dreams and you'd be excited about supporting what they want to do. And she has played that out incredibly, incredibly well. And then, so we've been married 17 and a half years at this point. And marriage has been, she's so easy. I think I'm pretty laid back. So we've kind of had, in many ways, it's been ideal because we get along so well. We have a great friendship. We're on mission together, raising kids and doing ministry, and we're like-minded in so much of what we do. But I would say marriage is still hard, even for director of marriage ministry of the big church and the biggest marriage ministry around, and we still don't have this thing figured out. So my selfishness gets in the way. Both of our stubbornness. I get angry. There's examples in the book of times when I lost it, and we get in a yelling argument one time that I can remember where just selfishness really played out on both of our parts, but primarily mine. There's times when I've gotten frustrated with the kids, and I talk about, when we dated, we didn't do things really well, and so we dated one time. Terrible, horrible relationship, just unhealthy physically, emotionally. I was codependent. She was mean to me. It was just this terrible, pathetic relationship. We both got really serious about Jesus. Second time we did it was radically different. So we tell our story there.
So y'all dated and then broke up and then dated again and then got married.
Yeah. And she was actually one of my teachers. That's kind of one of the fun things. I was in grad school for physical therapy, and she was one of my instructors. And I was totally hot for her from the minute.
I was going to say, there are so many cliches that are coming to mind right now.
I was totally hot for teachers. Not that I would know that song by then. Yeah. Totally into her. And it took her a long time to get with the program. And so we did date. She was dating another guy. We were just not in a good spot. And we broke up. And I thought, man, when we broke up, I was the one who had it really hot for her. But we broke up. I was so heartbroken and knew it wasn't the right relationship. And so I was Tswift, we are never, ever, 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 ever getting back
that's
together.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm T-Swift. That's
Yes.
Taylor Swift for people. She has that song, and we could sing it for you.
We could.
Ever.
I've never heard it before. No. But broke up, and I thought we were done. And then we both radically changed. And so just emotionally grew up, and our friends around us were the ones who encouraged us to break up, and then they were
I
the
love
same
how you
ones.
said that you emotionally grew up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while.
Yeah, and it was a really intense period of growth for us when I think God took away the thing that was most important to me, and that's why it was unhealthy. Is because instead of the Lord being the center of my life and being who was most important, what was the center point of everything, Kristen played that role. And so God took her away from me, and I grew up. And then same with her. I think she grew so much spiritually during that season. And then our friends who were the ones who told us to break up were actually the same ones who encouraged us to get back together. They'd seen such incredible change in us. She asked me out on the date and took me to a really nice restaurant, and which was awesome. And second time we did it was totally different. And so dated again, got engaged 5 months later, and then married 6 months after that. We got married the week of 9/11.
Wow.
So 9/11 was a Tuesday. We got married that Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy, but it was a great celebration in the middle of a really, really hard week.
Really hard week.
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure.
So in your book, one thing I like is that you use couple stories.
Yeah.
So, which I think is really neat as far as the relatability.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think people will go, well, that's good for you. You know, that's great that y'all got along and that your personalities together. You don't know my story.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about the couples you chose and why you chose them.
Yeah, so partly I wanted to be like really crazy authentic. And so you can make stuff up that sounds real, but I thought it'd just be, I don't know, more realistic to get real couples. And so they're couples I know from church, friends of mine. They're not all like successful, happy stories. One of them, the ending is tough, not in their marriage, but in family and extended relationships. They're couples who I look up to.
Are these couples that went through the premarital stuff? Or are they just in general?
Yeah,
okay, that's good
so
to know.
probably a few of them went through,
Yeah.
but most of them are a little bit older than me, further down the road. I changed the names for most of them.
Well, no, of course.
Yeah. So
I mean, they're brave to share because that's
yes.
hard to share things that are intimate.
Yeah, like one of them, the couple in the first chapter is very, very close friends of mine and our families. And, you know, they got married and the wife had an affair. And then, you know, then the husband had an affair. And right off the bat, it's not your typical pre-married book when you just talk about how amazing the wedding day is going to be. It just starts real authentic. Like, what are you going to do if your marriage does not work out the way you think it will?
Yeah.
And you gotta pre-decide on some of those things because you're going to let each other down. Unmet expectations are.
Yeah.
It's not like an if; it's a matter of when.
It sort of is.
And can you talk about how, just in a loving way, we help friends through that countercultural message? Because I feel like culture today is so loudly yelling, "Hey, if it doesn't feel good."
Yeah.
Or if it's not making you feel great or whatever, then get out and you deserve that.
Yeah, that shows up in a couple different ways. So, you know, I think our young couples are so scared of getting married now, right? Because all they've never seen it modeled well. The world tells them you got to be happy. Divorce rates, whatever they are, studies are all over the place, inside the church and outside the church, are way too high. And so instead of getting married, couples are, you know, they'll break up as soon as the going gets tough. They'll date someone else, break up when the going gets tough. They'll move in together and stay living together until things are frustrating, and they'll move on to the next one. And we're just giving this message that, and even the church, I think we're telling couples, marriage is really hard, you can't handle it. And so instead of willing to engage in it, couples do the easy thing, which is date, break up, date, break up, date, break up. And they're not getting married. So divorce or marriage rates are lower now than they have been maybe ever. I don't know if it's ever or in a long time, because we're just telling them how difficult it is. We're not, and it is difficult, but we need to do a better job of talking about how awesome it is too.
Yeah.
That when you push through, those challenges, if you get to the other side of them, 17 and a half years, we love being married. That means we have 17 and a half years of good memories of being on mission together, of raising kids together, of making an impact. And I go, what happens when it's 27 and a half and 37 and a half and 47 and a half? And I'm going to talk about sex really, really quick here. So they've asked couples, and I share this in the book. Can I talk about sex on here? Okay. Good? All right.
Yes.
So it won't be too candid. Not too candid.
Baptist girl in me.
Yes.
Hurry up before Jack gets in the car.
Yeah, totally. So, who are the most satisfied couples? It's couples who are in their 50s, 60s, and longer. And the reason why is because they have been on mission together for so long. They're not, they're purposeful.
And when you say satisfied, you mean satisfied sexually.
Yeah, and always. The satisfaction of the act and then satisfied in their marriage.
Yeah.
And the ones who are most satisfied have been together for a long time.
I love it.
Because they're doing life together. They've got memories. They've pushed through those hard times. And so I go, man, if I had, so many of my friends, if they had quit when a relationship got difficult, then some of their kids wouldn't be born. There would be, decades of memories that wouldn't exist if they hadn't pushed through those challenging times.
Yeah,
we celebrate 20 years this year, and Ed's big joke is 20 years, 18 of them really happy.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
That pushing through is so important.
Yes. And it's a commitment. It's what do we believe when we make those vows till death do us part? Do we mean them, or are we just kind of flippantly using words at the altar? So that's what I want couples to get. is like, before you get married, here's what I want. I want you to know what you're committing to and who you're committing to
Yeah.
in marriage. And, you know, and you're going to be let down.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some conversations you can have that will help minimize the disappointment and the surprises on the other side.
Okay, that's so important, because it's calling out like the stuff that might happen, might not happen, the happy, because the happy is great.
Yeah.
And the together is great. It's like with friendships, the together part is good. A broken relationship doesn't feel good ever. I mean, it's like a death without someone dying. It's just, it grieves you, period, at whatever stage of life that you're in, even if it's a friendship. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I love that you're calling out, here's the reality. And the fun movie would be like, oh, it's all supposed to look like this. And it's like, let the movies be what they are.
Yeah.
They're fun and they're entertainment and they're an escape. But the real life is good. And here's the stuff we're going to call out so that you know that it's normal, you know it's regular, and you know that you can make it through because you're not the only one.
Yes.
And I love that you used the couple that really went down a road that seemed like it had the point of no return.
Yeah.
And yet, how did they get back on the road together?
Yeah,
Or should we let people read the book and find out? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, do that. Yeah, the biggest thing they'd say.
Hi, Jack.
Is,
Hi, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Jack's like,
You know, right, what's going on, don't you?
What's up, Jack? So they, one thing they did, they realized the biggest problem in their marriage was not their spouse, but that they were the biggest problem.
Right.
Right. So instead of saying, hey, you need to do this, that, and the other, and they did, but they said, here are the things that I can work on. And so that was realization 1.0, number one on the list. Numero uno is that I've got to deal with my own problems before I worry about what my spouse has done. And so when they had that turning point, instead of saying you're the problem, they said I'm the problem. I'm responsible for what I'm responsible for. You do your deal, I'll do mine, and I'm going to work on me, and you work on you.
that takes
That's
a lot
awesome.
of humility.
Yeah.
I mean,
And trust.
seriously.
Yeah.
Humility and trust.
Yeah.
That's
And it
for
removes a lot of
sure.
yelling, doesn't it?
It
Yeah.
eliminates
They
a
have-
lot of yelling.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that's all they
Exactly.
did before. Like they tell Stuart, like they'd get in fights and they'd throw things. You know, the one fight in particular, they took this great Sacred Marriage, Gary Thomas.
Yeah.
So that book, literally, she threw it in the fireplace and it burned up.
That probably felt pretty good.
It might have. It was fun. And actually, I was with her when she met Gary Thomas for the first time and apologized to him for doing that. And then sweet Gary gave her another copy.
I
of
love
it. Yeah.
Because that really is a good book. But whatever she thought was in that book, it was kind of like, I'm letting go of this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to ask, so we've talked about the stick to it even when it's bad.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the flip side of that same coin? If it doesn't work out, how do we address that, and how do we give people hope that it just doesn't end there?
Yeah. If you've got a friend who's walking through that, I'd go back to that message I just shared a minute ago. What's your part? What can you work on?
Mm-hmm.
And then do everything you can to make your marriage, to restore your marriage, to do your part, to work on your struggles. You know, and I just say be faithful. If you end up, the marriage doesn't end up working out, but you do everything that you can on your part, that's a totally different story than saying, I just don't want to work through it, and I want to quit. And so I would say do everything you can. You know, I love Romans 12:18. As much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. And so what can you do to live at peace and then bring others in around you? Right, and I don't want to be flippant in this response because it is so difficult and so prevalent. But just making sure that you have, like that. One of the things I talk about in the book is having good friends who are not afraid to wound you or challenge you. And so friends who will encourage you when you need it. They'll give you, Proverbs 25:11. It's words that will encourage you and lift you up. But they're also not afraid to say, hey, quit blaming your spouse. Why don't you deal with some of the things that you're struggling with, that are lovingly willing to wound you, and then you do your part, and then you can put your head down at night and sleep well, knowing that you've been faithful. Yeah, but that's hard. It's so hard.
It is hard. It's a good word, though, for any day.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
anyway, All right. What else? What's your like a quick takeaway that you would go, this is my takeaway, or this is what you hope to encourage people with? If that's a fair thing to say, that's sort of broad.
That's a good question. One takeaway. All right. That is hard. Okay, here it is. So I think something like that couples don't talk about enough is companionship and friendship in marriage. And so we did, when we used to talk about marriage in our pre-married class, we would get up on stage and we tell people how hard marriage is, and like the phrase we use is, marriage is hard, you're all going to die, you can't handle it. And
that's sort of depressing.
It is. It is, and it is hard. You got to die to yourself, but we like scared people away from marriage. And somewhere along the way I said, I think we need to change our tune, but we still tell them marriage is hard, but they need to hear how great it is.
Yeah.
And so if you do this thing right, it's awesome. You know, I love being married to Kristen. Is my best friend. She's my companion. Friendship, adventure, being a teammate with someone, those are all things in marriage we don't talk about enough. So we asked 400 leaders, what's your favorite thing about marriage, and give us one word. And like overwhelmingly, 90% of the answers came down to companionship, friendship, teamwork, adventure, all related around the friendship and companionship in marriage. And so, you know, if you're not married yet and you want to marry someone who you are going to be friends with, that you're going to be, you know, that you see it as a mission and an adventure together. And then if you're a couple who's married and you've lost that, you know, you've lost dating each other, pursuing each other, that friendship, I'd fight to get that back. Because if you don't, you're going to end up really bored. And when you're bored, you look for fun outside of your marriage. And so just say, work on that companionship, go on a date, have fun with one another, do the things you did in the beginning, right? When you were so attracted to each other, what were those things that you did before you said I do? And then do those things again. And the friendship piece has got to last and got to endure. So fight for that friendship in marriage.
What's been the biggest surprise for you? Like a good surprise for you personally in your marriage with Kristen?
So can I give two?
You can.
Okay, so one is how much we love being parents for our kids. So I didn't like my kids when they were younger. It was really hard. Sorry, Jack. And but now that they're older, how much fun. Like our definition of fun now is being together with our kids, and it's awesome. And I'm watching how quickly time is going by. And get a 9th grader, it's flying by, and so I want to do whatever we can to get more time with them. So that's been surprising the last few years. But then big picture, what's been surprising is it's just fun being together with her and going through life. And then go back to that friendship that you know, we had a date today at lunch, and how fun that is to just sit down with each other across the table and catch up and process things together and laugh together. It's I never knew how hard it would be, but how great it really is.
All right.
Ta-da!
Ready or not, it's good. I mean, it's a good read at any stage. So thank you for writing it. I know it's a bear to get it done, but we're glad that you did it. And thanks for carpool chatting with us. Sometimes we call it carpool DM.
Carpool what?
Carpool DM.
DM, okay.
Kind of like
yeah.
carpe diem, but it's carpool diem, sort of like
better.
All right. Okay, so today, go out and say something kind of nice to somebody who probably needs to feel loved in rather than what so many people feel, which is left out. And grab this book for yourself or for a friend, and I think you'll really enjoy it and be encouraged. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, until next time.
Our very special thanks to Scott Kedersha. Connect with Scott at scottkedersha.com or skedersha on Instagram or Twitter. And be sure to check out Scott's new book, Ready or Not. Thanks again for joining the conversation. We love hanging out with you guys. Want to stay connected? Like or follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or follow us on Instagram. See you next time on Say Something.